Welcome to the Let's Stay Healthy radio show, sponsored and brought to you by Montana Harvest Natural Food Store in Billings, Montana. If you don't spend time on your wellness, you're going to be forced to spend time on your illness. Your health is your most valuable asset. Invest in it by tuning in now.
Welcome, everybody, to Let's Stay Healthy. Michael Ray here with you. I'm here with Kimmy Oliver from Montana Harvest. Today we have a special guest on with us, Dr. Garrett Smith, known as the nutritionist or the nutritional detective. And so it's going to be lots of fun. And certified strength and conditioning specialist. He's a licensed naturopathic doctor and has many, many skills. And so Kimmy will be sharing more with you. And welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you on. We found you with your Love Your Liver program, and hopefully you can let our listening audience know a little bit more about you, your background, and what you're doing.
Oh, well, I'll just start there.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I'll just give a quick background. I mean, I started in fitness when I started lifting, those Kmart concrete dumbbells when I was about 11 years old and thought I was going to be into bodybuilding and stuff like that. But fitness led to nutrition. Nutrition led to me working in a supplement store that led to me going to the naturopathic medical school that is in my state. There's only like 5 in the country, I think. So it just so happened to be 2 hours north of me. And I got in there, and then here we are. 20 years later, I've been in practice for 20 years, and yeah, got my online practice. We do all virtual stuff now, and we have our own line of supplements, very, very specific, very clean, very, I'm very picky. I'm very, very picky about what I do. And, yes, did I cover it? I don't remember all the things I was going to cover.
You've done a little bit of everything. But we just brought in, and I was super excited, we just brought in the Nutrition Detective line, the Lactoferrin and your Magnesium lotion, which is a high potency lotion of magnesium. The highest that I've ever seen.
Yeah. Those are our two, I think those were the first 2 products we actually had. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, the magnesium lotion is really by far it's our best selling product. I went into it. It took let's see, it was 20 months and 18 different formulations over that time. Cause like I said, I'm really picky, and I was talking to my guy, and I'm like, every ingredient, lotions, I wish lotions could just be like, fat and magnesium. However, people don't always realize this. If you want a lotion, you have to you have to tweak it. It's got to be, what people like. It's got to absorb well. It's got to, we want to try to have the cleanest ingredients we possibly can, and then still make it a lotion instead of just rubbing oil on your skin.
Yeah.
Which is what some of the other lotions are like, right? They're thick and they don't always absorb well. So what I went into this with was I wanted it to be as clean and as natural as possible and as high a potency as possible. I found a great formulator, and I told him what I wanted, and he started working on it. And we came out with this great product. It's of the other highest ones I could find in the market. It's got twice as much magnesium as the next highest competitor on the market. So people really like it as just a regular lotion, and then it's putting all that magnesium right into your skin. I personally, in my experience in practice, I have come up with the idea that putting magnesium on your skin gets in about 10 times better than pills do. Pills obviously magnesium pills have the limitation of, if you take too many, you're going to get the runs, and then it goes right in where you put it. So if you've got an achy joint, achy back, achy knee, whatever, if you put it on there, the magnesium is going to be absorbed right there. So that area gets it first. So you can focus where you put it rather than kind of just dropping it all in the whole system and hoping some of it gets to where you want it. So I've always said topical magnesium is the best approach. Can people still take pills? Sure. They can use them for a supplement to raise their levels, or they can take them to help them poop. because that's one of the things they can be very helpful for. But that's yeah, the magnesium lotion is like it is my pride and joy, and we really appreciate you guys selling it. We're going to try to get it out there more. Yeah.
Well, we're on the mission to spread that because we know magnesium deficiencies are running rampant with all the stress and chemical stresses, everyday life stresses. Our body is utilizing magnesium. Even if you're consuming sugar, I think it takes 57 molecules of magnesium to process 1 molecule of sugar. If that sounds accurate to you, you're the
I didn't know
doctor.
that. What I know, one of the very first things I figured out in practice, because I tend to be like, does it work or not?
Yeah.
Like the 57 molecules and that stuff. So I let other people play with that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, does it fix people? Because that's all that really matters to people, right? So I went into it, and I had well, actually a personal story. I used to have hypoglycemia tendencies really bad. You know, the whole hangry thing and all that. And I would be a bear when I wouldn't eat for too long. And I started figuring out the magnesium connection, and I started doing supplements, and they helped. But then I really started getting on. Back then, I got on some magnesium oil, which is just magnesium chloride and water, right? Very simple. And I started putting that on my armpits, and I actually started putting it on. Well, I had some skin tags in my groin, just little ones. And skin tags, in my opinion, are a sign of poor blood sugar control. And I knew I had almost every type 2 diabetic was what I would call a hypoglycemic before they became a diabetic. They had really big swings, and then all of a sudden the system broke enough that then they were high blood sugar. But anyway, I started putting it on, and all of a sudden my blood sugar swings got way less, to the point where I almost didn't notice them anymore. And actually, I had a little skin tag in my armpit and a couple down in my groin, and those all fell off. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So that's where I started associating. And then I was actually in clinic at the time, and I was working. It was a drug intervention. Well, like a what do I want to call it? Drug rehab clinic. And it was run by a naturopathic doctor, so it was a really cool place. And they were giving people like IVs of nutrients to keep them feeling better and to help them not get cravings, stuff like that. And I'd see the diabetics would have like the skin tags, especially all around their neck. And then I started connecting the two, and I went, oh, magnesium is really, really, really important for this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. Well, and I want to tell the listening audience that there's 510 milligrams in your magnesium per teaspoon, which
Yes.
is substantial.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Well, let me clarify on that. Let me clarify.
okay.
So this is something that a lot of people don't know. And, you know, you guys know elemental versus like the total molecule. So when you see any magnesium chloride based product and they say 510 milligrams, or they say 250 milligrams, which is like the closest competitor, only about, I don't know, I think it was like 13% of it is magnesium. So some people get scared when they hear 510 milligrams of magnesium, and they go, oh my gosh, that's going to cause me to get like loose bowels, or it's like way too much, or whatever, from what I read on the internet. And it's like, no, it's really okay. It's not that much magnesium. It works, like, right? Like, people love topical magnesium because it works. So that's the first thing I look at. I saw the topical worked. So then I said, I don't need to know like the exact amounts of it, because I know that you can't overdose on topical magnesium. So you just get what you get. We find that 2 pumps of our lotion is a really good daily dose. So wherever you want to put it, some people, like before bed, they like to put it on their feet. They really feel like it helps them sleep. I tell people, if you have anything that's achy or crampy or just not feeling good, put it there first. Otherwise, don't put it in any, mucous membrane. And then you're pretty good to go. And don't put it in your hair if you're doing like hair testing with us, or on your neck, because it will get in your hair. And then your hair test, we can't tell your magnesium very well. It's not the end of the world. I know if people are using topical magnesium regularly, that their magnesium is probably good. That's what I see over and over on hair tests. That's why I switched. I was doing hair tests, and I could see people using pills versus topical approaches. And the people who would regularly do the topical approaches, their magnesium got really good. And I actually, my estimate in practice was, in terms of getting magnesium levels to where they need to be, only 1 in 20 people do pills actually work for them to get them on their test where they need to be.
Wow, that's substantial.
Yeah, so that's why when I'd tell people when they got lucky, they'd come in taking magnesium, and let's say they have a good hair test and their magnesium's good, I'd be like, you're one of the lucky ones. You can keep doing this. I still think the topical's better, but if you don't want to use it, then it's working for you.
Yeah, we usually recommend both in our store just because the absorption rate is so low with oral, but it does help move things along and it
Yeah.
can help produce bowel production, and that's
Yeah.
just as important.
Yes.
Um, but it's funny, I have to tell you, because our 2-year-old, once we got your lotion before the store brought it in to
Mm.
try it out. And I was using the spray on her, but she hated it.
Oh yeah.
And so once we started using the lotion, every night she puts her foot in my face, like I'm ready for my lotion, and I have to rub her feet and legs down with it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like actually, I just at the gym I go to, I know the owner of the gym and I know his wife, and all of a sudden the owner of the gym comes up to me and is like, "Hey man, you need to bring me a bottle of that magnesium lotion because my wife started putting mine on her feet and now she's sleeping so much better and she wants it." And so I get him a bottle, and then I see her like yesterday and she goes, yeah, we're going to they're going to Bosnia to visit her family, and she's like, I need another bottle to take to my mom because she needs it real bad."
It
And it's
does work.
yeah, it's cool. I'm gonna. My buddy wants to sell it in his gym too, and I was gonna. The next time he has a big powerlifting meet there, I'm gonna bring some and have a bunch of the powerlifters try it, and I know they're gonna love it. So
Yeah, it's non-greasy. It absorbs. It's yeah, definitely moisturizing, but yeah, it's a great lotion. We're super excited to carry it. And we're also really excited to talk about the lactoferrin that we brought in by your guys' line.
yeah, lactoferrin. I mean, the background on lactoferrin is we humans make lactoferrin. People might hear lacto and think, that it's only dairy, but we make lactoferrin. Lactoferrin is in every single one of your body fluids. There is lactoferrin present. We get a lot of lactoferrin initially. I mean, we make it on our own. I think it was our neutrophils and our epithelial cells make it. So those are the main sources of it. And we make it every day. During nursing, the mom makes tons of lactoferrin in her milk. So as we get older, and one of the things, if we get to it today, talking about vitamin A toxicity, the cells that make lactoferrin in us can get damaged. Now, there is now, of course, now that they're making everything genetically modified and CRISPR and crazy stuff, they're trying to make human lactoferrin with like these genetically modifying CRISPR technology. I'm not going to touch that.
Wow.
I'm not touching it. The place where most people have gotten it from. Well, let me back up. A lot of us remember the camel milk fad, from years ago, which was probably overall a good thing. But one of the things about camel milk, and so they were saying that it was really helping a lot of especially autistic kids. Well, one of the things about camel milk is it is the highest the highest lactoferrin containing mammal milk other than, humans. And it's 90% similar to human lactoferrin. So it's very similar to ours. And it had a lot of it in there. So I'm actually of the mind that the camel milk fad, why it got so popular, was because it was helping people because of the lactoferrin in it. And then the other thing is colostrum has tons of lactoferrin in it too.
Mm.
The problem with colostrum is if you've ever seen it, the liquid colostrum, it's very, very yellow, especially if you freeze it. That's a lot of vitamin A, and we don't want that. So the thing about colostrum is it can come with tons of vitamin A, which we don't want. It also comes with tons of lactoferrin. So what I figured out was, well, I wanted to go with the lactoferrin powder, and we got our lactoferrin from, well, I found what I feel is the best company in the world at it, Ingredia, out of France. And so they get it from, they use, I'm not going to use the magical word on here. They use fresh milk, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
So we don't use that 3-letter word that could
Yeah.
get people in trouble, right? So they use fresh milk, and it's French cows. So they tend to be, French take their farming and that kind of stuff very seriously. And then they spray dry it so they try to keep it at as low a temperature as possible so that they denature the lactoferrin as minimal as possible. And we started getting that, shipping it over from, they ship it from France here, and then we put it into capsules, and it is dairy. And so people will say, well, I have a milk problem. Can I take this? I'm not going to speak to if somebody has anaphylactic allergies, like, you need to be careful like that. That's a life-threatening situation. However, what we have seen for those who are not anaphylactic, and there's lots of reports of this on the internet, people will say, I'm sensitive to dairy, or I'm lactose intolerant, or whatever, and lactoferrin is purified enough that it doesn't cause them problems. So let's get into, what does lactoferrin do? Well, when people get into the Love Your Liver program and they start following my work and they start learning about toxic bile and bile ducts and the bile actually eating holes in things, well, lactoferrin literally can help repair the bile ducts. It can help repair the damage that is done by the bile itself, because bile is actually as people get sicker and sicker, it gets really, really caustic and really, really toxic, and it can literally eat holes in things. Like, that's what ulcers are. That's what leaky gut is. That's what, that's what these holes are, where people are talking about things leaking. That's the bile doing that, but
Wow.
nobody talks about it. So lactoferrin is a very one. I want to warn people. It is very, very potent. We have a link, and on the newer labels, we're going to have a QR code too, but we have a link to very detailed instructions that I've written so that people really respect it and they start slowly, because it really can get things moving in people. And I want people to not, jump in with both feet and then go, oh my gosh, this it really kicked up bile production and detox and all this stuff, and I don't feel good. I want people to start, I'm telling people to take less than a capsule at the start. So you might open up the capsule and just take wet your fingertip and take a little bit, just to make sure. One of the things we do in our program is we want people to start on things slowly so that they can figure out, does it work for me right now? What is the right dose for me to take? What is too much? Because this is one of the things that nobody else seems to deal with, especially supplement companies. They're just like, take as much of our stuff as possible. And I'm like, no, take the right amount for you. And that doesn't mean right at the start. Like, I take 2 lactoferrin capsules a day. It is the greatest thing for my productivity and my mood. And I had to work up to it. And there was a time where I didn't know about taking too much of it. And I was taking too much of it for about 6 months. And it actually seemed to, the detox part of it, I was noticing more seasonal allergies. I just kept taking it. I eventually got out of that. Like, that part of me cleared out. If I could go back and I knew about going up slower, would I go up slower? Yes, I would. I definitely would. I do have a whole live stream on lactoferrin where I go over all the health conditions that it has a benefit. Usually when I do those shows, I go over the top 10 causes of death in the US, and then I cover how lactoferrin has research showing it helps, I think 9 of them, because one of them's trauma. Like, one of them's just like people getting in accidents and dying. So lactoferrin is probably not going to help much there. But yeah, just if you're going to do lactoferrin, it is really potent. And I would hate for somebody to judge it as not being right for them just because let's say, we all know people who would do this. We may be the people who do that. They're just lazy and they just jump in with a pill because they're like, I don't want to open it. I'm just going to take it. And then they kind of get whacked with it and they go, I don't feel good on this. And you go, well, you could have taken less, and, or maybe start over when you're ready and try going up the way I suggest. So yeah, but lactoferrin is absolutely amazing. It's the supplement that I miss the most when we have run out of it in the past, because it's one of our more popular things, and we got to get it from France. So sometimes we had during the COVID, we had supply chain issues. So getting it has been challenging at points. But yeah, it is absolutely one of my favorite supplements. Yeah.
So does it help individuals that are not producing enough bile produce more? And then if people have really toxic bile, how does it truly work?
Well, we're kind of getting into, I know you probably have a little background on toxic bile paradigm and all that stuff. I just did a 3 episode series on my channel to give all the updates and all that stuff on it. But the idea, it's a little bit of a balance, right? Like, okay, so if people, I'll give the quick overview of toxic bile paradigm really quick. I'll try to make it really quick. Okay. Your liver is your main detox organ. Your liver makes bile as the main way. So people tend to think of detox as like toxins come to the liver and the liver detoxes them and they just poof disappear. Like they don't really talk about what happens to it after that. They talk about it goes to the liver and the liver detoxes and then it's just what happened to it. Well, those toxins, the liver will concentrate them into the bile. So the bile is effectively, one thing I call it the liver's poop. It's what the liver wants to get rid of. This bile can get, as over time, as we get sicker, as our detox slows down, so getting sicker means the detox is slowing down. The detox slowing down means we get sicker. Well, as this all happens, the bile is getting more and more toxic. And it starts eating holes in things. It can eat holes in the liver cells that make the bile itself. It can eat holes in the tiny bile ducts inside the liver. It can eat holes in the big bile ducts. That's what we were talking about with the lactoferrin before. It can eat holes in the gut, leaky gut. If you're in the alternative health world and you talk to people about what causes leaky gut, they usually are just kind of like, you eat the wrong things. I don't know, your gut biome or whatever. Your bile rules everything about your gut. So it is toxic bile that literally eats holes in your gut. That is the cause of leaky gut. Then we have, if the bile goes backwards up into the stomach, we call that GERD. It's actually bile reflux. So every type of GERD has bile in it. Not all of them have acid in it. So not everybody has acid reflux, but everybody who has reflux has bile in it. So some are acid and bile, some are just bile. So that, and then ulcers in the stomach, literal holes being eaten in the stomach, that's bile too. So when this bile leaks into your system, you don't feel good. That's when your liver makes bile, you dump it, it leaks in through these holes that have been created by it. It goes, you now have the liver's poop leaking into your bloodstream. Okay. Mm. So lactoferrin, this is how lactoferrin can be very helpful and also be too strong for people. Okay. So remember, we were talking about the toxic bile and we were talking about the leaks. Okay. This is the hardest part for people to grasp about my work is there can be good and bad to the same thing. They can have a benefit and it can also have a drawback if you don't pay attention. So one of the parts of my work is people need to pay attention, and it's not just like I don't tell you to do a protocol and you just magically follow the protocol and you get better. There's I have some people who can't take any lactoferrin. I had some people who were so sensitive to lactoferrin when we used to have a little bit of it. We had 2 capsules in the entire magnesium lotion bottle. 2 capsules worth of lactoferrin in the entire magnesium lotion bottle. There was people who couldn't take that. They couldn't rub that amount on their skin, like 2 pumps, without having the lactoferrin be so strong in what it did that they couldn't take it. And then we have people like me and others who take 2 pills a day, and it's the absolute best thing. So what it does, lactoferrin can help speed up the detox processes in the liver, which then also tends to, the outcome of that is that it will make more bile. Okay, so if you're sick, you have toxic bile. And if you have symptoms everywhere, you're probably leaking it. Now, the other thing that the lactoferrin does is it can fix the holes, right? So it can literally fix the holes that the toxic bile ate out, that is where you're leaking into your bloodstream. So we want to find the balance for the person where we're getting like the repair of the bile ducts, but we're not increasing the bile dumping too much. Like if somebody took way too much lactoferrin for their state of health, they would dump too much and they're not getting as much repair. So then they wouldn't feel good because they're still leaking bile. That doesn't, fixing that problem. I mean, you're pumping out bile from your gallbladder multiple times a day. So think of it as like if you had a scab and you just kept picking at it multiple times a day, like it can't heal very well because you're just always picking at it. If you make the picking less or you do it less often, then it has more time to heal in between. But we just talk about not Well, basically, it would be like you start slow with it and you go up. And if you start feeling symptoms, you're probably pushed past where you should go and just back off a bit. We do this with so many things in our program because everybody's different. I talk about it like people are like cars. They're different makes and models. However, they all run on gasoline and they all run on spark plugs and they all run, they all have belts, but different cars have different size belts and they use different types of gasoline and they use different types of oil and they use different sizes of spark plugs, but it's all the same parts. It's just similar but different. And so different people need different amounts of different things at different parts of their recovery. So when they start realizing that that's their duty, if they want to get better, to pay attention to this and adjust as they go, then they do really well. And then they've learned that I use the saying, I've taught them how to fish. I have taught you how to use the tools of your own body's feedback, and I've given you a framework of things to do to fix the problems. And then they know when they do too much or they do too little. Well, they don't know when they do too little because then you usually don't have any issues, but they know when they've done too much and they can back off and they can adjust because they know what the signs are. So that's one of the things my program teaches is people how to watch for certain issues to pop up and know what to do when it does. So,
Well, maybe you can let the listening audience that would be intrigued to join your program, how they can do that, because I love that your approach is individually based. Like it's not one size fits all for everybody. It's very unique to that individual and their health journey.
yes, yeah. There well the place to find, so if people go to nutritiondetective.com under the membership tab, that's the link to the program. The program itself, if people wanted the direct link to that, that's members.nutritiondetective.com. So that's how you could go directly to the page. And then we have it's a Mighty Network group. So it's its own little private, if you want to call it a little social network, it's a little private social network with the course inside of it. And so we have over 2,000 people in there, just chatting, helping each other. So the Love Your Liver program is a do-it-yourself program. So that's where if people just want to work on it on their own, they want the lower cost version and they want to work on it on their own with other people along the way, that's that. If they want to work with me or my other practitioners, then they can find that at the main website too, where we do hair testing and blood testing and do a consult and give them support for 6 months via our office hours and all that. So yeah, that's the Love Your Liver program. And that's basically my life's work in there. Yeah.
That's awesome. How did you get into that Love Your Liver program and
Boy.
the vitamin A toxicity with the liver health?
Right. That's a fun question. Okay, so when I got into medicine, when I was getting into naturopathic medical school and getting into medicine, I'd already been into health before because I had, oh boy, I was in medical school at about age 25. By the time I was there, I had psoriasis, I had chronic insomnia, I had really bad like middle back stiffness and pain. It would get in the way of my exercising a lot. What else did I have? Well, I had the hypoglycemia before that. Like I had significant issues for a 20-something-year-old, what I used to consider myself fairly resilient fairly robust health male. Like I look back now and I go, a lot of people really, they'll come to me and they'll be like, I'm perfectly healthy. And you like start asking them a couple questions and you're like, no, you're not. we're just telling ourselves we're healthy so we don't have to deal with it. So I had these issues and I started doing different approaches like all of us have in the health world. I get out of school. I learn all these techniques in school. I get out of school. I'm looking into everything's toxic metals. Oh, everything's candida. Oh, everything's your gut biome, and you just need to eat probiotic foods all day long, and carbs are the devil. And I went through these various phases as people do, and the whole time. So this is the part that's important that I explain it well. I felt that there had to be a single thread connecting all of them. So it wasn't what most people are looking for is they want it to be a single cause. Like the keto people are like, carbs cause all disease. And you're like, no, because then you get keto people who get really messed up. Right.
Yep.
So apparently carbs don't cause all disease. And they used to tolerate carbs as a youth. And then as an adult now, after they've done keto long enough, then all of a sudden they don't tolerate carbs. And so they actually broke the system. And now it doesn't work anymore. So we got to bring them back somehow. But anyway, so that common thread, I started thinking about, I think the first thing I thought about in terms of how the liver connected it was I was thinking about blood sugar. And I was thinking about how the liver and the pancreas do their dance to really maintain your blood sugar. And then also the adrenals can come in if they need to in an emergency situation. But I was just thinking about, why does the pancreas break? That was what I was thinking about. Like, why does the pancreas break? And I don't know at what point it caused me to think this, but I started thinking, what if it's the liver that's broken? Or the liver's not doing its job enough, and then the pancreas, so it's, your liver has to function or you're toast. Like if your liver's gone, you're dead. It kills everything. Everything else dies because your liver died. So I started thinking, what if the liver is this kind of like keystone piece? What if it just isn't doing its job enough, and the pancreas can't handle the liver not doing its job good enough? You know, kind of like a family. If you have like let's say the leader of the family, he's doing okay. He's still doing his job, but not as well as he needs to. And because he's not doing his job as well as he needs to, let's say one of the kids is like losing it. The kid's breaking down, but it does. So this guy wasn't doing his job, but the kid is then taking the weak link in the chain. So that was the first part where I started thinking about the liver. Then I started learning about, at one point, well, I'll just go into the vitamin D thing. I was taking vitamin D supplements, and I was very early on recommending like high dose vitamin D, and I was doing finger prick tests in my office. I thought it was that important. And then I suddenly learned about hair testing. I went into hair testing, and then they were like, oh, here's what happens on hair testing with taking vitamin D, and your calcium goes way up and your potassium goes way down, and that's basically a hypothyroid pattern. And I started looking at all these people in my office, and I was getting hair tests back, and I was like, I got to stop recommending vitamin D to people because it creates I mean, one of the biggest things is with hypothyroid is constipation, and vitamin D supplements are well associated with constipation. And I had been putting people on them, and I had to do a mea culpa and tell them, you know, as they came in, I was like, I'm sorry, I need to stop doing it. So that was my first thing of realizing that maybe what I had been taught was wrong. And I was figuring this out like 2013. By 2015, I was done with vitamin D. And then vitamin A toxicity came around. I've been doing a low vitamin A diet for, what are we at? Over 7 years now. So about 7 years ago, I learned about a gentleman named Grant Genereux from my buddy Matt Stone, Matt Stone was recently on my live stream. And he told me, he said, this looks crazy. Like, this looks like really interesting. And I kind of poo-pooed it for a couple months at the start. Matt wrote a big article about it. And he pointed out that all muscle meat carnivores, there's you know, people who have been all muscle meat carnivores, which is the absolute lowest vitamin A and copper diet that people could do. Doing that for 10 years didn't have vitamin A deficiency problems or copper deficiency problems. And I went, because I like results, right? I was like, I can't argue with that. How can anybody argue with that? Their eyes aren't falling out of their head. Their skin's not melting off. Why not? Shouldn't it? So I got into it, and I read about half of his first book. Read about 100 pages of his first book. They're free ebooks on his website. And I sat back in my chair, and I said, I have to change everything. Because I was actually I was recommending vitamin A to people at the time, both whether it was vitamin A drops, or whether it was liver pills, or whether it was high vitamin A, you know, sweet potatoes and spinach and whatever. I was having people do all this stuff. And over time, I had questioned my stuff because I tend to have clients for a long time. And I had people who I'd helped them a lot along the way, even before I knew about vitamin A. But then they started coming back and saying, Doc, I'm getting these little, like, I'm a little tired now. Do you know what's going on with that? Or my hair is falling out just a little bit. Do you know what's going on with that? And I was like, so what I did that's different than a lot of practitioners is, instead of blaming the client or saying you're not doing the program or whatever, I said, I assumed they were telling the truth, because why would they lie to me? And I thought, I'm missing something. What am I missing? And then the vitamin A thing came along, and then I went, oh, okay. And I started having people, reduce their vitamin A. I mean, getting people off of vitamin D helped a lot of people before. And then I started getting them off the vitamin A supplements. I started figuring out what low vitamin A foods were, and we started moving people more towards that. And then they started getting better. And then, so with the vitamin A toxicity thing, that led me to Dr. Anthony Mawson's work. And Dr. Mawson has written, I think, 34 papers connecting vitamin A toxicity to various diseases. And one of the things he was saying was these diseases look like what we know is caused by too much retinoic acid in the system. So too much vitamin A leaking out of the liver and going into the bloodstream. So once I saw his presentation of how vitamin A would leak out of the liver, go into the bloodstream, I started learning about cholestasis, or that's the fancy medical term for basically toxic leaky bile. Cholestasis means bile, cola means bile, stasis means stagnation. The way you want to interpret stagnation here is just bile going places where it's not supposed to go. Like if a river was stagnant and backed up, it starts flowing other places because it builds up and it starts finding new routes. So that's what the bile does in the body too. So I figured out that it wasn't just vitamin A that was leaking into the system. It was all the toxic stuff that the liver accumulates. And then I started looking into bile acids and all that stuff. And then we started coming up with a framework or a theory of what was happening. And then we eventually got here. So what we found in the real world was when we basically took a 3-tiered approach. Number 1 was to reduce or minimize or eliminate the toxins coming in as much as possible. Because a toxin that doesn't come in doesn't have to be detoxed. It doesn't hurt you at all. It doesn't take away nutrients. So a toxin that never comes in, it doesn't cause you any problems. So it's easier. That is the primary thing about, lots of people could get better if they just knew what toxins were. Because a lot of people in the health field, right, they love vitamin A. They think it's wonderful, and they wonder why people don't get better or slowly get worse. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you think that something is good for you and you eat more of it and it's actually a toxin, that's going to be the worst thing that you can do, because that's the sneakiest thing. And vitamin A toxicity is very slow. It can take years or decades to really show itself. So then you can't figure it out, because you go, well, I've been eating this my whole life. And you go, well, now you're sick. So my car worked fine until it broke. Okay, here we are now. So, and we started looking at, so the second thing is we are trying to facilitate the body's removal of toxins from stored tissues, from storage tissues. The liver's a major toxin storage site. Anybody who says that on the internet, that the liver doesn't accumulate or store toxins, they're wrong. They're simply wrong. I can show them wrong in the research. Our body fat accumulates fat-soluble toxins. On that note, so do the animals we eat. So if you're eating fatty meat, you're eating the fat storage of that animal, the toxic fat storage of that animal. So we're not big on pushing high fat intakes, especially animal fat. We don't push any high fat intake. We just let people eat the fat in the food, right? It's just eat the fat that's in the food and don't try to emphasize more. Some people need a little extra fat, and we deal with that. But so there's that. And then so we facilitate that removal by doing things like soluble fiber, which it's called adsorbs bile. It binds to bile, and then it helps you poop out more. We do things like charcoal, which adsorbs bile, helps you poop out more. We do things like zeolite. Our zeolite is with the Y. But we do it with zeolite to help people poop out more bile and more toxic metals and all of that stuff. So we use binders, if you want to call them that, to help people get more bile out. And then the third thing is we restore nutrient deficiencies that need to be restored. We have a very short list of the nutrients that really need to be restored compared to everybody else. We have some very key minerals. We have, we mentioned we talked about flesh niacin before this. We do really like flesh niacin. Lactoferrin is an optional thing that can be very helpful. We have kind of an order of adding things in the program of like start here and go down and try to go through it in this order so that you start with the things that give the biggest bang for the buck. Like, I tell people, get the mercury fillings out of your mouth before you put any energy into this program. Like, get the fillings out of your mouth. I don't know if you saw my Twitter post the other day. The newer mercury amalgam fillings are up to 30% copper.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were saying that these new high copper amalgam fillings were like having droplets of mercury forming they were talking about droplets of mercury forming, and they were actually creating more mercury vapor in people's mouths for them to breathe in and soak up and all this stuff. So they add more copper to it, which I don't like at all, but they're also leaking more mercury into people's systems, even though they were trying to say that, oh no, they're better. They'll leak less.
I just spoke to a dentist the other day who's one of our customers, and he said back in this, when he was in dentistry school in the 80s, they used to make their own mercury fillings, like combine it. And he said the mercury would expand. But with hot and cold, if you still have them, they're
Mhm.
gonna, yeah, your tooth is gonna extract, or not extract, but it's gonna expand and contract with hot and cold drinks, and
Yes.
the mercury won't. And so, yeah, they definitely vaporize and leak into your system.
Yeah. There's a video on the IAOMT YouTube where they have so a lot of claims were made by dental organizations or dentists that after about, and I even heard this in naturopathic medical school from my environmental toxicology teacher. He said if you've had them in your mouth for more than 10 years, they're not pushing out any more mercury. They're basically, the surfaces are all they're emptied out. The IAOMT had a 40-year-old filling. It had been in somebody's mouth for 40 years. They took it on a black light screen. They had a black light background, and they rubbed it with a pencil eraser.
Oh,
Just
wow.
rubbed it a little bit with a pencil eraser, and then you see the steam, the vapor, the mercury vapor come off of it. So, folks, if you literally have mercury in your mouth, you need to get it out. What you do after that point, like what you do to replace it, that's a huge topic. I'm connected now with a functional medicine and holistic dentist who may be helping me to give people some advice on that, because I'm not a dentist. My dad was a dentist, but that doesn't mean I magically learned how to be a dentist. I basically he was a very good dentist and a very cautious dentist, and I don't think he trusted most other dentists. So that's what he raised me with. But yeah, getting that, I tell people, like, before you spend a bunch of money on us, like, get the fillings out of your mouth. Don't do like, and also only do them like 2 or 3 at a time if you have a bunch of them. We had one lady, she did 7 all at once. I didn't know she did that. And she came back, and what happens, so this is a very interesting phenomenon. She had them taken out all at once. What happens in your body? And she felt great for a couple days. And then all of a sudden, she started getting mercury symptoms.
Mm.
What happened was, you take them out, like right when they're in, you are doing what I call intoxing every day. You are intoxing mercury. Whenever you chew on them, they're off gassing. Whenever you drink a hot liquid, they're off gassing. Like, there's stuff going on all day. Imagine if somebody chews gum and they have mercury fillings. That's gonna, oof.
Ugh.
So they get it out. They stop the intoxing. And one of the principles of our program is you need to stop intoxing so that your body can start detoxing. Because the thought here is, so your body's very intelligent. One of the things we do is we assume the body's intelligent with what it does. We don't assume the body's broken and dumb. So let's say you have a bunch of mercury coming into your bloodstream every day from these fillings. And then what we have a lot of people do, you may have seen this, people go on some sort of detox or cleanse, or they take chelators, or they do whatever to pull it out of their system, right? So they have mercury coming into their blood from their fillings that are still there. Then they start taking things that pull mercury out of the tissues into their blood.
Mm.
Now they have double extra mercury in their blood, which is when you get symptoms. So then they say, I feel so terrible when I do a cleanse. I must really need it. What you want to do is remove the source, right? Take the source of it away first. And then like what happened to this lady was all of a sudden her body just went like, blah, just get rid of it. Like start dumping it and get rid of it. And it came into the blood from the tissues. But when we were able to calm it down, we used, got her on some selenium, and we got her on some charcoal, and we were able to start catching all of that coming out. But it was not fun for her at the start. And so we tend to be conservative in the detox thing. We don't want people to, take out 7 fillings at once and go through the not fun thing that she went through. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, interesting.
yeah.
You have a very different approach when you attack these problems in the body, and I find it very interesting. And I mean, the body makes toxins itself, so you have to be careful which toxins you're getting rid of.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I've always said. Like, so people say, well, what do I do when I'm fully detoxed? And I kind of in my mind, I'm joking, like I might do a little eye roll in my head of like, you're never going to be there. Like the very act of living, just like your car produces exhaust, the very act of you living produces toxins in the system. So what our goal is to reduce the toxins coming in, and then that allows your body to start reducing the toxins that are in storage. Just like, like if you had a messy house and it just keeps getting messy all the time, it's really hard for you to start digging into your closet and clean out your closet, right? Because you need to wash the dishes. You need to keep the house running so you can stay alive. And you're just like, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just leave all the crap in the closet. I know we need to get rid of it, but we'll do it someday. That's the way it is with most people's toxicity state, is they have so much toxicity coming in on a daily basis, plus what they make, that they never get to the stored stuff. But like I just showed you, like when we remove the mercury in somebody's mouth, all of a sudden their body, so those couple of days where they felt better, their body was like, oh, that's nice. That's not coming in. And then it goes, okay, let's get to work. Blah. And it just starts dumping out all the toxicity because we stopped the intox so it can start the detox. I don't know how I came upon this kind of like systems based approach to it. I've had a cattle farmer tell me I sound like a cattleman when I talk about health and like what I do with people and how we watch how it works, and then we do more or less. I've had I forget the other there was another profession where a guy said, "Are you sure you're not in this profession?" And I was like, "No, I've never been in that." I just look at it like I do a lot of car analogies. There's the fuel, there's the electrical system. I kind of talk about like a plumbing system, like the blood. I know there's not a plumbing in the car, but there's still like, the oil flows through it, right? So I think of it like this. And a lot of people, when they talk about the body, they just talk about it like when a joke I'll say is like, people will say blueberries detox you. And I go, okay, show me how. Like, tell me the mechanism. What is the mechanism of detox of blueberries? And they go, this is what I read on the internet. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's at least you admitted that. Then I say, well, what I know is that polyphenols, the so-called plant antioxidants, right, that everybody pushes, that includes resveratrol, quercetin, bioflavonoids, daidzein, like all the soy phytoestrogens. So like all these tannins, like these are all under polyphenols. Well, in chemistry and toxicology, phenol is implicitly like regarded as toxic. The word phenol is, you could say that they generally regard that as toxic. Okay, so then what happens when you put a poly in front of it? So we got multiple phenol. Okay, that doesn't sound very good. What do we know about polyphenols in general? Well, I have quite a bit of research showing that polyphenols slow ALDH, which is aldehyde dehydrogenase, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important and crucial detox enzymes in the body. So now we have the polyphenols in all these highly touted high antioxidant foods slowing down, literally slowing down a detox pathway that I can show. I was just doing research today looking up how does the body detox polyphenols. And when you start looking at how the body detoxes polyphenols, it's very obvious that like it looks at polyphenols as a toxin. And plants, when we think about what plants do, well, first of all, plants, it tends to be the high antioxidant fruits and vegetables and plants that we use are very brightly or strongly or darkly colored. Okay, there's a thing in natural science called aposematism, which is that nature will try to mark poisonous things with very obvious colors, is one of the things they'll do. It'll also mark it with bitter tastes. But the colors is what I'm talking about here. So polyphenols and vitamin A are very brightly colored. That's how nature warns you that something's poisonous. And we've decided, since Sesame Street started talking about Eat the Rainbow in 2005, that all these brightly colored things are supposedly good for our health, even though they weren't eaten back in the day very much. And even like, you know, tomatoes didn't come over until 1500s. So we weren't eating those forever either. But yeah, so we look at so polyphenols and vitamin A get detoxed through these pathways. And the same pathway like that detoxes vitamin A is the same pathway that detoxes alcohol. And what do plants don't have talons. They don't tend to have like big teeth. They can't move in general. So plants will defend themselves with chemical warfare. That's what they do when people talk about anti-nutrients or other things like this. Plants defend that. They even tell you with bright colors, and then you eat these brightly colored toxins, and then we have an epidemic of people not feeling good. And here I am out doing this strange stuff to most people, saying, don't eat those things. Like, they're not good for you. Just because they're pretty doesn't mean they're good for you. It's like cologne and perfume and scents are terrible for people. People be like, but I love the smell. And you're like,
it's an intake of toxin.
Yeah. Yeah.
We only have a minute left. This one
sorry.
so fast. No, you're good. It's just, we could probably talk to you for a whole nother hour.
Yeah, I could spend the whole day with you because it's like excellent information.
You can invite me back.
We would love to have you back on.
Would,
yeah. I think it's going to be necessary after today. But I just want to quickly announce that his products, the Lactoferrin, the Magnesium, is available at Montana Harvest now. And they can also join your program, Love Your Liver program. My husband's been doing it for, I think, over a year now and has had tremendous benefits. And so we want to thank you, Dr. Garrett Smith, for coming on. It was an honor.
Thank you for having me on. It was great to be here. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And join us. We'll be back on next week.
You're listening to the Let's Stay Healthy radio show, sponsored and brought to you by Montana Harvest Natural Food Store in Billings, Montana.